Alright, so welcome to another episode of All Things Nerdy. I don't think I called it All Things Nerdy last time, so this is
didn't even have a name.
technically the first episode of All Things Nerdy, but it's not, because the two episodes that were filmed before this.
They were like a
beta edition.
Yeah.
So we're not just going to talk about Marvel this time, we're going to talk about everything. We're going to talk about Marvel, Game of Thrones, Batman.
Yes.
And Game of Thrones is the one that I'm looking forward to.
I'm excited for the Game of Thrones
because
one.
I'll probably go into a rant.
Try not to.
And as everyone
Let's
knows, people love
rants.
Especially
when it's
entitled know-it-alls.
Not just general things that everyone likes to complain about.
Yeah.
Because people like to do that in the comments as well.
Yeah.
So
ideally, when we do the Game of Thrones rant, the comments will be a flood with people who agree. With us.
Maybe some that don't agree, but you know.
Well, to those people, I say, go fuck yourself. Right, okay. So Marvel. First one is a big one, and it's one that I'm really excited about. But Benedict Cumberbatch has been announced that he's going to be in Spider-Man 3 before Doctor Strange 2. Which at this point, I mean...
They may as well just come out and tell us what's
they're doing the Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
Come on, you've got...
Yeah.
That's what everyone wants, isn't it?
It does kind of... I'm interested to see how that would play into the story of the second one, Far From Home, because obviously, spoiler alert, his identity gets leaked by Beck, not Peck.
Peck is what...
I was thinking of Josh Peck, I think.
I don't know who that is.
Fine then. The uncultured swine. So yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. Unless because what I was thinking of is like, I remember I saw a meme of, it was like Peter Parker talking to a news reporter being like, yeah, I don't know why you would say that I'm a Spider-Man. And then Spider-Man swings by, and in the next frame it's one of those, it's a scroll and a high five, and I'm like, see, they could do that, but they could have like Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man or
don't bother
Spider-Man.
You're making a scroll, just make it one of the other Spider-Men.
Yeah.
I'd be quite happy with that.
Even just that little second thing.
That's the thing, in one of the last episodes we were talking about which one we would rather have, the Batverse or the Spider-Verse, but the more I've thought about it, the more I want the Spider-Verse. Just because it would be nice to see Tobey... Obviously everyone wants Tobey Maguire to come back because
I feel
everyone loves Tobey Maguire, but Andrew Garfield gets such a bad rap for being, quite frankly, a good Spider-Man.
I think the reason why he does, and we talked about this in the last one, is just because he was the second...
Yeah,
he was the second after Tobey Maguire, and it was never going to. It was kind of set up for failure, even though the movies themselves were good and they're quite original, like for live actions. But yeah,
silly. Anyway, the next one is another big one. Apparently, Hugh Jackman's been approached for a role in the Multiverse of Madness.
I mean,
not so much like an actual big role, just to sort of appear.
Yeah, I feel like they are going to go down the road of a multiverse X-Men. That's their own universe of the X-Men, and he is the Marvel going to introduce. Because if Evan Peters is in one division, like we talked about, the last one, then that could be exactly what they're doing.
The mouse is on my nose, and I don't like it. Yeah, it's weird. That's a weird one, because as much as I would like to see Hugh Jackman back as Wolverine, I don't want them risking the way it ended, because I like the way
Logan ended. Well, this would be before that though, because Logan was set like years and years in the future.
I know, but that's not so much in a chronological way, but in like a sort of legacy way. I think it was a good way to end Hugh Jackman's reign.
I feel like as well, like if they did it in one division, they kind of hinted at that was a separate thing, then I would be happy with that. If it was Evan, you know what I mean? Like, that for me as a fan would be a good way of saying, okay, that's cut off from that X-Men, and we're now going to introduce our new one. It would make sense. Yeah,
it's weird. Like I say, that one's a weird one. I'm not sure how I would feel. Obviously the initial reaction would be like, oh my goodness, that's Hugh Jackman, doesn't he look amazing?
Yeah.
But it's...
When does he ever not?
It's true.
Hugh Jackman.
But again, I'm one of those people who keep on saying now is bring Hugh Jackman back for Marvel. I'm just kind of like, I like the way that it ended for him. He had a good death.
You have to think about it as well, though, and how angry would people be if they brought Hugh Jackman back for a few movies, he decided he was too old for it, couldn't keep on doing it, couldn't do the dieting and all the exercising and stuff, and then left, and they had to get a new one. People would be so mad. Like,
might as well just bite the bullet.
They might as well just get a new one. Just save themselves the stress later. Honestly,
I wouldn't mind it being like a very minor role where he appears. That's different. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, like maybe if you just help them, like if they were like going through like the multiverse and like he came in and like helped them and then they left.
Yeah.
Like, or even just like a little like in was it First Class with Charles Xavier and Magneto, and he just tells them to go fuck themselves.
Yeah.
Something like that I would be happy with. It would just be like a nice little snippet.
A nod,
yeah.
So the next one is Vincent D'Onofrio. Someone on Twitter asked him what character he would like. Well, someone put a thing on Twitter saying, what character would you most like to see in Spider-Man 3? And that was just a general question out to the world. Yeah. And Vincent D'Onofrio replied to it with just, when I was a boy. Right, so if those of you who don't know, Vincent D'Onofrio played the Kingpin in Netflix's Daredevil, and I think it was in The Punisher. I know being in The Punisher, but he played the Kingpin, and he did a speech that started off with, "When I was a boy." So sort of everyone kind of
thought that's what he was.
Yeah, it's more like a sort of, let's get everyone talking. But
it's more of a troll than anything. He's more of kind of saying, "Oh, hey, everyone's everyone's talking about this."
But at this point, just add everyone. Everyone wants to see Vincent D'Onofrio, because if Vincent D'Onofrio's in it, then Charlie Cox can be in it, and we can get our Daredevil back. I want my Daredevil back.
The thing is, though, that is such a good idea to me, to have Daredevil be
his lawyer.
It just makes so much more sense, and like you said, it is a nod to the comics, because that can happen.
Gigantically expansive as well, because you bring in.
You can bring in that.
All of them.
I would also like to see that, as in not just the Avengers, but more like teams, like side teams, like the Defenders, like, the young Avengers that we might eventually see, and stuff like that. I would like to see Marvel expand and bring more heroes in, so that could be a way to do it.
I want my Daredevil back.
You want Daredevil. We all know you want Daredevil.
Oh, he was so good as Daredevil. Next one is apparently Sony is interested in Tom Hardy appearing in This is basically the Spider-Man section of Marvel.
This is just... They say Sony, right? Every year there's like some talks of Spider-Man. They seem to release loads of stuff seems to come out, and it's just like our heads can't take. Like, stop, Sony.
This is weird because of this terrible year that just will not end.
I know.
They've basically said they're not going to produce any gigantic films.
Yeah.
Because if they go, right, here's $500 million, and the movie only makes $40 million because the cinemas are shut.
Which makes sense.
You can't. There's no point doing it.
There are some people that like those people that were angry that they didn't release Black Widow when they were going out. Like, I think Scarlett Johansson deserves
a big box office
for a first movie in the Marvel universe. I think she damn well deserves it. Well, it's pretty much gonna be our last, isn't it? So it's. It makes sense.
Yeah, but it's another one of these things where, can you imagine Tom Hardy, an investigative reporter, in on the story of Spider-Man 3, where
he's investigating
Peter Parker,
and eventually figures out that.
Well, he might not even investigate Peter Parker. He might investigate Quentin Beck.
Which would be cool. Then he ends up helping him.
And
Spider-Man. They could have that whole weird.
But it's also weird that Sony are coming out in this. They won't sell the rights to Spider-Man to Marvel because he's just worth too much money.
It'd be absolutely stupid too.
Marvel would have to break their own bank account just to buy Spider-Man, never mind Venom and Carnage and things like that.
I feel like the deal they have is good.
Yeah.
It's good that they kind of share it.
But it's also weird that they call it a Sonyverse, as if it's its own universe. But Tom Holland's Spider-Man is the Spider-Man in both their Sonyverse and the MCU.
Well, they call it they call it Sonyverse because they technically own it, don't they? It's not like it's separate from the Andrew Garfield universe and from the Tobey Maguire universe. I think is what they're getting at.
It's weird. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's weird. And another big one, which is sad news, is that pretty much all nerdy films have been delayed. Pretty much every single one of them has been delayed. So the Batman isn't coming out in 2021 anymore. It's coming out in 2022. Spider-Man 3 is supposedly going to be getting filmed soon, but it's coming out in 2022 as well. Is it, or is that 2021? It might be 2021, and then
I think it's 2021 at the minute.
Is 2022.
They've pushed a lot of stuff back, like the series I know have pushed forward. Like WandaVision's coming out, is meant to be coming out at the end of this year, although I'm kind of, I don't know if they will.
They have said that it's coming out in December.
So like I know Falcon Winter Soldier's coming out, is meant to be coming out earlier.
December or November? Might be November.
I think it might be November because I'm pretty sure Falcon Winter Soldier was meant to be November, but they pulled that forward. The Loki series apparently is going to be getting released sooner because they're just going to be putting that on Disney Plus. It's not like they need big, like, you know, it's not like it's a movie where people need to go to the cinema to see
That'll
it.
be everyone's Marvel fix.
So I mean, I'm excited.
I'm excited for them.
I think they're going to be great, especially
WandaVision. I think WandaVision is the one where I'm kind of
intrigued by.
Feels like the one that's going to set up a big Doctor Strange. I mean, when they announced all the films at the Disney thing, the Disney Con, and all the Marvel films, the one that I was the most excited about was the Multiverse of Madness. I really like the idea of Doctor Strange's film.
I feel like though, just at that entire event, I was there just going, I'm just watching, going, oh my god, I'm so excited. Yeah, I know what you mean. I feel like WandaVision is going to be the big turning point in that. Just Wanda's story from WandaVision to Multiverse of Madness. That is just going to be the big turning point for Marvel in general. Yeah. Because if what we talked about in the last one, if they do that, as in like she's the cause of the multiverse, I feel like
she's the cause. Spider-Man deals with it, and then.
And I'm sorry, but this is controversial. I don't care what anyone says. Wanda Maximoff is at this moment in time the strongest person in the universe. Captain Marvel is not, to me, this is my opinion, Captain Marvel doesn't even come close. If she creates the multiverse, then...
It's your opinion. See, now the comments aren't going to be flooded with everyone that agrees with us.
The thing is, though...
It's all going to be cute.
The thing is, though, Kevin Feige did pretty much confirm that that's true. So, if Kevin Feige says it, then it's true. Alright, but...
Yeah. Well...
I'm going off the movies, though.
When you look at the stones... That gave them that. Well, no, I'm thinking of the wrong one. Never mind. I know I saw another thing as well that really blew my mind because I never realised it. And it said Doctor Strange mastered his skills while he was stuck in the time loop with Dormammu. He became an expert mage because he was stuck there.
Oh, so he was like doing all this.
Yeah, when he was trying to defend. Yeah. And when you think about it, when you think about sort of cosmic power, Dormammu is stronger than the likes of Thanos. Obviously, Thanos has the gauntlet, which is what wins him the fight against Doctor Strange.
Well, yeah, Thanos was strong because he had the gauntlet, really, wasn't he?
But if you spend years... Because that's how long they reckon he was stuck in the thing with him.
They didn't really say, did they? They kind of just...
So he mastered his skills trying to fend off Dormammu.
Can you imagine that? Because to us, it was just a few seconds. And even then, I felt like it was long. They kept on doing it over and over again. I was like, oh, when's it going to stop?
It's cool, though.
But, yeah, if that's the case, then, yeah, that's pretty cool.
That's it. It was just something that someone said, and everyone was kind of like, oh yeah, and
makes sense. Yeah,
does make sense. And that's all I've got for Marvel. That's our Marvel talk. I did have Game of Thrones next, but we're going to save Game of Thrones for last. So we're going to do Batman.
Because you want to be excited.
So we're going to do Batman next. We will do Game of Thrones, which will probably end in me ranting about season 8. But we're going to talk about Batman.
We all know we're all waiting for it.
So Batman, the first one is that. Obviously, everyone's still sort of coming up with theories and stuff about what the story is, and there's been new set photos which we'll show in the background.
Yeah.
Which is showing Colin Farrell's Penguin, and that is the Penguin.
The Penguin.
Which is ridiculous. Whoever the makeup artist is already deserves an Oscar.
Jesus.
There's a new look at Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman. Robert Pattinson looking like... I think I've fallen in love with Robert Pattinson, you know.
Good.
Like,
you should. Everyone should.
I think everyone has, because he did Tenet, then he got announced as Batman, then everyone wanted him to be James Bond.
Yeah.
Then he did that Devil film
which was incredible.
Which
by
was
the
a
way.
really good film.
I really even though it was kind of like one of those, it ended weirdly.
Yeah, and now everyone wants him to be. Kevin Feige's interested in him being in Star Wars.
Just.
I know.
Robert Pattinson deserves so much better than what he got.
I think finally, after all this time, I can finally say that I'm Team Edward. That was a joke. I'm not Team Edward, I'm Team Robert.
Just Team.
I'm not into
just
that
Team
Twilight.
Crap. Just bury Twilight.
Let's leave Twilight in the past where it damn belongs. Anyway, sorry. So everyone's sort of coming up with theories, and a big one that I've read, which is actually really cool, is that one of the main protagonists for the trilogy, because obviously Matt Reeves is doing a trilogy, the big antagonist for the trilogy is the Court of Owls. I don't know if you know who the Court of Owls are.
I've heard of them, but
so for all of you non-nerd, I need your glasses. I need nerd glasses.
Not nerd glasses.
For those of you who don't know who the Court of Owls are, the Court of Owls, I think, was written in 2011, so it's really, really modern, like a really modern villain. And it's basically like an Illuminati-style group who manage Gotham from the shadows. So like all the high-ups and all the sort of bigwigs are all sort of secretly controlling everything in Gotham. And they have these warriors called the Talons, who are like pretty much invincible owl warriors. But it's an interesting story in the comic because the court, obviously they don't know that Bruce Wayne is Batman. The court try to bring Bruce Wayne into the fold, like bring part of the court, while also trying to kill Batman. So it's a really cool, interesting story, and it's a big thing with where the Waynes part of it are part of the court as well. Because some variations of the comics make
where Thomas Wayne was a part of
this, right? Where like the Waynes are like criminals more than they are like these nice sort of charitable people.
Well, they might, you don't know, because in the Joker, it made Thomas Wayne out to be the bad guy, yeah.
But I'm sorry, the reason everyone thinks that there might be the thing is because on the Riddler card there's an owl.
Right. So maybe he's working for them?
Yeah. So it's strange that it feels, that one to me felt like it was like a grab at something minor because it's the card that the Riddler leaves.
So it might not actually be anything, but...
It might literally just be a card with an owl on it.
I mean, to the person who discovered that though, I mean,
it, yeah.
Jesus, good for you.
Yeah.
It would kind of be an interesting take though, that it's like this kind of, it's not just villains kind of doing villainy things, it's like an orchestrated, planned out thing. It's quite interesting.
Yeah, because the Dark Knight trilogy never really had like an overarching bad guy. It never had a bad guy that was the bad guy.
Throughout the three movies.
It sort of had a sort of return villain in the third one with Ra's al Ghul's daughter.
Yeah, but you didn't really see her in any of the other ones.
Spoiler if you haven't seen those films from 2008.
Get a life. But I mean, she wasn't really in the first two though.
No.
So it was kind of a callback to the previous, but it wasn't. You know.
Once I had a wife, she was taken from me. That was my Liam Neeson.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's one of the theories. And again, there's absolutely tons of theories that people are coming up with. Some of them are ridiculous, some of them are actually quite good.
When you think about it, how much of the movie did Matt Reeves give us? Because they're still filming, so chances are...
According to that, it's like...
It's literally a couple of scenes, probably, that they've just pieced together. I think we mentioned that in the actual trailer reaction. So
that it's like 5 scenes
pieced
super
together.
Cut to look like a film.
So when you think about it, I mean, there's an endless possibility. God knows what part Penguin's going to be playing. Catwoman, we don't know what she's going to be doing.
Andy Serkis is Alfred. He's come out and said that it's the relationship between him and Alfred's really, really important. Like Batman and Alfred is really, really important in this film, which it was in the Dark Knight trilogy. I think that was one of the main relationships that Batman had in the Dark Knight trilogy. I've
seen a few different theories because again I've been trying to keep up with them. There are some theories that are saying that Alfred, it's not a good relationship they have at this point, because Alfred isn't happy that he's being Batman.
Yeah.
Because he's obviously lost Thomas and Martha, he doesn't want to lose him. I've seen ones where it's like Bruce Wayne doesn't want to be Batman, but Alfred's kind of pressuring him to be Batman. I've seen loads of different kinds of theories people come up with. People saying that like Alfred might not know that he's Batman, and so kind of is, trying to investigate what he's doing and trying to figure out what he's doing.
Alfred's a really good character, if done right.
So,
as much as I love Jeremy Irons, he wasn't a very good Alfred. He had like sort of the odd line where it was kind of like, that's a nice line, but it wasn't a very good Alfred. Michael Caine was a bloody brilliant Alfred.
Oh, he makes me cry every time. Every time. That one scene, we don't even have...
No, not even that scene. Do you know it's one of the best scenes in the Dark Knight trilogy? It's quietly one of the best scenes in the Dark Knight trilogy, right? Is when in the Dark Knight, Bruce Wayne has given up. He's saying, right, I'm going to go and reveal myself. So he's burning all the evidence that can lead back to like Gordon and Rachel and Harvey and all that stuff. And Michael Caine, they're walking together toward the exit, and Michael Caine goes, I suppose you're going to lock me up as your accomplice. And Bruce Wayne turns to him and goes, accomplice? I'm going to tell them the whole thing was your idea. And then they started going up, and Michael Caine just goes and looks at him. Oh, it's one of my favourite scenes, and it's quietly trodden on.
That's like more of a funny scene, but yeah.
You're talking about the crime scene.
Sad scene.
Which crime scene? He's got about 3 of them.
On the last one.
Yeah, the last one's
terrible. Yeah,
but the ending's good though. When he sees him.
The ending's good, but
Spoiler alert again.
It's just I don't like looking at him cry. When he's crying, I can't help but cry. I cry when everyone cries, so I cry just when people cry. Right. So the next theory is you can't have one without the other. It seems you can't have Batman without people obviously talking about the Joker, because for some reason, whenever a version of the Batman happens, everyone goes, well, of course the Joker's going to be in it as well. Yeah.
And because of the riddle that's told, the one where it's what does a liar do when they die? And it's they lie still.
Yeah.
A lot of people are saying that isn't a riddle, it's a joke. It's not really a riddle. So they're saying that as much as Paul Dano's Riddler is probably going to be the Riddler, they think that the Joker's a bigger part of it. Which I don't fully understand. But there's a few different things in it that people are kind of going, okay, well, that's a Joker. So the painted people?
Yeah, well, I mean, we said that, didn't we?
Yeah, people are saying that, because obviously when this film got announced, it came out and people were like, so it's a sequel to the Joker. So where the Joker was set in the 70s, this is set in the 80s was the idea, or the 90s, sort of years after.
Yeah, if Bruce Wayne could have a growth spurt after like 10 years. Then
but it's not set in it can't be set in the 90s.
It's set modern day. We discovered that afterwards, because of phones and stuff.
Because it's a phone, and what was the other thing? It was something else.
The cars and stuff, wasn't it? It was all, and he's on a bike and stuff. That looks very much.
So it's not set in the 90s. It can't be set in the 90s. So unless the Joker's like
actually
50 at this point, 50 or 60 at this point, which they're probably not going to do, because actually, if you think about it, there's never been a 50 or 60-year-old Joker. Bring in Willem Dafoe, I suppose that's the one that everyone wants.
I mean, I don't know. Everyone kind of wants Joaquin Phoenix, don't they? That's the thing I've seen. Everyone just wants Matt Reeves to kind of bring Joaquin in. And
Phoenix,
not even, I've seen some stuff where it's like, it doesn't even have to be a continuation from the Joker. You could leave that as a separate universe, but just have Joaquin Phoenix's Joker also in this universe.
Yeah. Well, the thing with the painted face people is that people think that those are some of the rioters that were caused by the Joker. At the end of Joker.
Yeah.
That some of those are like the people that have sort of formed out of those riots.
Well, I mean, we did kind of.
And it might be that the Joker's dead. It might be that the Joker's dead, and these are sort of, because you saw the guy that had like a smile, didn't he?
We saw the guy with the cross on his head for some reason.
Bullseye. That's who he is. He's Bullseye. And it's kind of yeah. I mean, I'm one of these people. I'm not. Obviously, I'm a giant Batman fan. Everyone knows I'm a Batman fan. If they don't by now, then they don't know who I am.
Yeah.
I don't think that the Joker needs to be in everything. I would rather have a few variations of the Joker that are brilliant. So we had our Heath Ledger, we had, and then we had Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah.
If you missed the joke that I made there, I completely skipped over Jared Leto because he is not my Joker, and I refuse to acknowledge him as such. That might get me some hate as well, because Suicide Squad still has a lot of fans.
Well, I mean, if he was written out of Birds of Prey, then.
Yeah, exactly. That tells you all you need to know. They never brought him back.
No.
When
he jumped her.
When they said they're going to make a Joker film, they went, "Oh, with Jared Leto," and the guy went, "No. Why would I do that?" So yeah, I'm not of the mind that the Joker always needs to be in Batman.
Yeah.
I don't think he needs to be in every single variation of Batman. Not every single variation of Batman needs a Joker.
Yeah, I think as well though, like, Batman has so many more villains than just the Joker that we haven't really seen I feel like very good variations of. Like I would love to see, like, obviously Catwoman's going to be in it, like a really good Catwoman Batman kind of thing. Penguin, I mean,
Colin Farrell looks ridiculous.
Farrell,
he doesn't look like
you
Colin
can't
Farrell.
You always mention that.
He doesn't look like I once sat for 20 minutes trying to find Colin Farrell in the picture of the Penguin. I couldn't find him. It's not him. I refuse to acknowledge that he's the Penguin. That is Colin Farrell.
It is very
it's
good.
Scary that's Colin Farrell.
I mean, obviously, if we're getting the Riddler, then that'll be.
And Paul Dano's a really underrated actor as well. He's a bloody good actor.
So just, I would like to think that Matt Reeves would give us more villains than just the Joker.
But that's the thing as well. Like, supposedly there's going to be Arkham Asylum scenes, which will give us a look at other villains and give us hints at other villains.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm more than happy to have like a hint to the Joker.
Like it walks past a room that says
it's locked off completely. So you can't even see
completely locked off, and you can't get to it.
And they say something like, "Oh, that's the only locked off one in the thing," and then they go, "Oh, but we all know who's in there." And then they walk on it. That's enough for me. And it's like, okay, I know that he's a reference in the Joker. So, okay.
Like even if you just had like Arthur, like the name Arthur, like
Fleck
or something like
because
because we would know then it'd be like, oh yeah, that's
that's
the
enough.
Joker.
But we don't need to have the Joker in every Batman film.
Yeah, and at least then they wouldn't have to actually get someone in as Joker.
Yeah.
And try to keep up with Heath Ledger and Joaquin Phoenix. So
I think it was a monumental task already for to be fair, for Jared Leto and for Joaquin Phoenix to have to follow on from.
They were kind of. Jared Leto's Joker was set up for failure at the beginning because he really tried to find an original version of Joker, and I feel like that's what went wrong.
Yeah.
It was too different from what Joker was. Joaquin Phoenix, I feel like.
The thing is that I think they both went out to be like a different Joker, but Joaquin Phoenix went to the right place because it's more like, okay, let's understand why he's the Joker. Whereas Jared Leto just went, I need it to be not the Joker the same way that Heath Ledger was. And he, instead of being the Joker, he just became a gangster, and it was like, that's not what the Joker is. I know some people will say, well, that is what he is because he sells guns and all that stuff, but the Joker isn't just a gangster.
Yeah. Also, just that whole... The Joker is not a good person. Those people that were there going, I want someone to love me the way that Jared Leto's Joker loves Harley Quinn. I'm like...
In that very abusive relationship.
I mean, because they cut out all of the abusive scenes where he literally slaps her about, and it's like...
Because he does that thing where she falls into the big tub of sort of
and he saves
cream, and he does that thing where he's like, literally, if he turned and walked away, I would have been like, okay, that's exactly what the Joker should be. He's willing to push everyone else away in his pursuit of his relationship with Batman. But then he does that sort of... and jumps in after her, and I was like...
Why?
What? Says that's not the Joker.
Why?
He doesn't... I mean, that's the thing that everyone misunderstands, is that people think that he's in love with Harley Quinn. He isn't.
He's not. He just uses Harley Quinn to get what he wants.
Yeah.
And, like, there's literally stuff where, like, Harley Quinn's about to actually kill Batman, and he's like... Get lost, you stupid woman, because he doesn't want to kill Batman. So it's like,
it's that weird thing. It's teenagers.
I think a lot of people were saying that obviously they aren't people that are unaware.
Understand.
They don't understand.
What the relationship is.
Yeah, like they're unaware of the comics and that kind of
thing. So that's sort of, and again, like Paul Dano's Riddler looks really original from what Matt Reeves has sort of designed. Zoe Kravitz looks cool as Catwoman. The Penguin looks cool. I would quite happily like to see what Matt Reeves does with other Batman villains.
Yeah.
What kind of spin he could put on them.
I mean, Matt Reeves is obviously the biggest Batman fan. You can just tell, even just from the teaser, you can tell that he obviously knows more than I think people would imagine he would.
Which is a good thing. Batman should be.
I mean, isn't it a bad thing? I mean, like, the fact that, like, I mean, you were talking about, like, the Hush storyline and stuff. Like, obviously, like, I mean, I was unaware of that. And now I'm, like, a fan. Obviously, you're, like, a super fan. So, obviously, it appears that Matt Reeves knows what he's doing.
At least enough to make a good Batman film.
Yeah.
And there's a reason everyone's excited for it. You know, it's one of them films where I think everyone's excited to see what he's going to do. So, should we talk about Game of Thrones?
Wait, I need to get comfy.
Right, so the main story. There's only one story that I've read about Game of Thrones, and it's that there's a spin-off coming that's announced. It's going to be called House of Targaryen.
Mm-hmm. House of the Dragon, isn't it?
Something like that.
House of the something yeah.
But there's been 2 castings, and I didn't have them up for some reason.
I've seen one. I can't remember his name, but he was from the TV show Vikings, which I have talked about in a different. I think it was in the X-Men one. I was talking about another cast member for Vikings. As I think I'm not sure who it was. They apparently wanted him as someone in the TV show.
Yeah. So the TV show is going to be based on Viserys the First.
Yeah. Which I'm shocked about. I thought they were just going to do Aegon the Conqueror up to the Dance of the Dragons. That's what they kind of hinted was going to be happening.
Yeah. So it's kind of.
I'm disappointed because maybe they might do their own, just a separate series with that, because I just really want to see, not even like, I just want to see Aegon Targaryen, and not even him, Balerion. I just want to see Balerion, because everyone's like, oh my god, like Drogon, Viserion, and Rhaegal were huge dragons, but Balerion's like, ugh, he's superior. Right.
So I thought there was 2, but there's only one. So it's Paddy Considine has been cast as King Viserys the First.
Yeah, that's the confirmed one.
Yeah. There's supposedly a woman who's been confirmed as well.
I want to see who this guy is.
I'm pretty sure Paul Considine isn't the guy you're on about.
No, yes. It's not him, because it's someone else. Travis Fimmel.
Who?
Travis Fimmel. He played.
Paddy Considine. That's who he is. So he's the guy he was in all of Simon Pegg's films. So he's going to be Viserys the First.
So him, I don't know if you know who he is. He was from a TV show called Vikings.
No idea.
And he played. Who did he play? He played
Ragnar or something.
Ragnar, yeah. He played Ragnar Lothbrok. And he was really good, but he was kind of that. I don't think they've said what character they want him to play, but apparently the directors want him to be in the series. But they haven't said as which character, so...
Yeah, so they're making this series about Viserys the First, who I know certainly wasn't obviously the first king, because the first king was Aegon. And I've actually been reading Fire and Blood again because I haven't finished it.
I want to read after you as well.
I know it's not any of Aegon's sons, because it's 2
they're not going to do Jaehaerys, are they?
I don't know if they do. I don't know if they do Jaehaerys, because Jaehaerys was a good king.
I just want that moment with Jaehaerys when it's Kingsguard and it's the army. Like would be like great to see, because the Kingsguard in Game of Thrones was crap to me, except for
I think we should explain what you're talking about. So in the book it explains sort of not the formation of the Kingsguard, but like the first really, really good Kingsguard, who was Jaehaerys as Kingsguard.
We'll put stuff up so you
and
can see.
His hand was a man called Orys Baratheon, who was like was it Orys? It might not have been Orys Baratheon, but it was one of the Baratheons who had married Jaehaerys' mother. Mm-hmm. So Jaehaerys and his sister ended up getting married, because the Targaryens got married.
What was it? Elia?
Something like that, yeah.
Alia.
But they ended up getting married against the wishes of the Baratheon, who was the hand, and their mother. So they gathered an army and went to Dragonstone to get them, because they were still underage at the time.
Yeah, they're like 16 or something. Weren't they?
Technically, Baratheon and the mother were the regents.
Yeah.
So they went to Dragonstone to fetch them and to sort of break up their marriage, and obviously it's the 6 Kingsguard. Is that the thing? 6 or is there 8?
No, there was 7. I'm pretty sure that was the first time there was actually the 7 of them.
So this army came, and what happened was the Baratheon basically said, Kingsguard, move aside. We'll just here for the king and queen. We can split them up, and that's it. And the Kingsguard basically stood in front of this entire army and went, we will die defending our king.
Yeah.
Like, so there was 7 against this entire army, and it was just, there's a picture in the actual book, and it's a really cool picture of the 7 standing between this army and Jaehaerys and the wife.
Which would be awesome.
Which would be a great cool.
And with the Dragonsworn set they had in Game of Thrones as well, I could just imagine it being on the bottom of the steps, Jaehaerys and I think Alysanne is her name is?
Might be Alysanne. Yeah.
Alysanne or something like that. Standing there, kind of standing back and looking all like, huh, yeah.
So it's weird that I don't think they would do Jaehaerys because Jaehaerys was after that sort of incident, he was a good king. He was probably the only good king that the Targaryens had. He didn't really have any wars, and he sort of helped the country build. But the thing that's weird is that we've obviously both talked about how there's plenty in the Game of Thrones lore that they could make a spin-off series about.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
The Targaryen line is a good place to start.
That's just one of them.
I feel like the reason they're doing this is basically what my theory for what The Hobbit should have been, where they're going, we're going to see if people want more of Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Because to me, they should have went, right, The Hobbit is going to be one film. We're going to see if there is a hunger for more of Tolkien's world. Then we're going to unload the Silmarillion on people.
Yeah.
Whereas this one, I think, is like we're going to show them, Viserys the First, and if they like that series, then here's everything else that's in.
Because they were originally going to do a different series. I remember, was it The Children of the Forest or something like that? It was something like that, and I don't know. Naomi Scott was casted in it, and I'd actually filmed the pilot, but it got cancelled. And I think it was just because people didn't really. It was right after. Maybe around the same time as season 8, and people just like, we don't care.
We don't want it.
They waited a bit and then they announced this, and I feel like people are like, okay, they should not be able to go wrong with a Targaryen story.
It's just interesting that the Targaryen that they chose
was Viserys.
I mean, it's a safe one because he's kind of. Well, I'm not 100% certain on all the lore and stuff, but they could have quite easily gone for Aegon and his two sisters during the Conquering. Which I feel like would be a series that would last 5 or 6 series.
That in itself,
yeah,
would be loads because it was like war after war after war.
Or they could have done Aegon's two sons, who are Aenys and Maegor. Who Maegor is the one who's
Maegor the Cruel, was he referred as? Yeah.
Who was they fought each other and all that stuff, and they could have done the Dance of Dragons.
I think that they might. I feel like from what it's seen, it's going to be from Viserys the First to the Dance of the Dragons.
Yeah.
Possibly we might see some of the Mad King. Maybe. I would be surprised if we did. To be honest with you.
I would be very surprised if we saw. Or it might be one of those things where they go, like they did in The Hobbit. Again, I'm going to keep drawing
a referral,
where they refer to him, so they might see him before he's mad.
Yeah. Because I saw some stuff people saying that they might. Up to, you won't actually see any of the Robert's Rebellion, but you might see the end of Robert's Rebellion. So you might see Jaime stabbing him in the back, or you might see Daenerys and Viserys fleeing King's Landing and going.
I think if they're going to bring Aerys into it and they're going to do a series about Aerys, they should do the Siege of Duskendale, where Ser Barristan saves him single-handedly. Because Ser Barristan deserves.
I don't care what anyone says. Ser Barristan in the series was nowhere near as cool as Ser Barristan in the books. Ser Barristan was far superior.
He had a cool death though.
He had a cool death. I'll give them that. It was very honourable and cool.
Because I've been watching a lot of Game of Thrones series. Preparing for this video, I've been watching a lot of the clips and I've been watching the series back through. Right, and his death was really cool because he killed about 15 people before he died.
And he saved Grey Worm.
And when you think about it, he could have quite happily just walked away from the noise, but he like a proper knight, runs headfirst into it while everyone else is running away.
Didn't even have armor on or anything. He just walked in and was like, you know what, I'm going to be a badass and show you all how it's done.
Him and Arthur Dane.
I feel like not his first scene, but him getting kicked out of the Kingsguard, him just owning them all, him taking off his armor off and be like, cut through all if you want it.
It's funny that because I showed Dad that scene, and it's funny because he takes all his armor off, right, and before he takes his sword out, he goes, I am a knight, I will die a knight, and then Baelish goes, a naked knight, and tries to take the mick out, he takes his sword out, and then Baelish kind of goes, because if all of the Kingsguard are taking out the swords and the Hound are all getting ready to have a bloody good fight, you're kind of like, okay, we're in trouble.
I know, because it's Ser Barristan. He's one of the best fighters in King's Landing. Even Jaime Lannister, who was supposed to be at the point one of the best swordsmen in King's Landing, said he would not want to get in a fight with Ser Barristan because he would beat him easily. So if that doesn't tell you something about Ser Barristan,
Ser Barristan as an old man scaring all of these younger Kingsguard and the Hound.
And he said to me, even now I could cut through you all, and I'm like, oh, get on there, Ser Barristan. And he just chucks the sword down.
What were we talking about? Oh, we're still talking about House Targaryen. We're still talking about House Targaryen.
I just wanted to talk about it.
So it's interesting again. So I think with this, I don't know that they'll go to Aerys. I think that will be a bit of a stretch if they go all the way to Aerys. But
well, that's a while after the Dance of the Dragons, and if they're going to end on the Dance of the Dragons, then.
But there's no reason that they couldn't make a whole series based on Robert's rebellion.
I would be quite happy with it, to be honest with you.
Because characters that you would want to see, you want to see.
So you want to see Aerys.
You want to see Aerys, Rhaegar, Robert as a younger man.
Yeah.
When he was a bloody cool warrior.
Ned's
brother and dad.
Yeah. That'd be such a sad scene.
Brandon and
to see them getting burnt alive.
What was his dad called? His brother was called Brandon.
Brandon. No, because it wasn't.
Might have been both called Brandon.
Brandon. There was Benjen and there was Eddard, and what was his dad called?
His dad might be called Brandon because he named his eldest son after him. It makes sense.
Oh right.
I might be wrong about that. The comments can tell me, but I'm not sure if it was Brandon.
Was it not Rickard?
Oh yeah.
Because they named Rickon. They named Rickon after him.
Rickon after him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's. Obviously, that's a very horrible scene. It's not even a sad scene. That's a horrible scene.
It would be sad. No, because the reason it would be sad is to see Brandon
trying to
pulling himself into the fire to keep his dad out of it. That to me would be really sad to see.
So for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, in the sort of the reason Eddard Stark rides off to war with Robert is because at one point Aerys calls Rickard and Bran to King's Landing to swear fealty to him. And to punish them, what he does is he sets up this sort of elaborate trap where they're both sort of chained to each other with fires. I think Rickard is held up, suspended in the air, and Bran's sort of all the weight of his dad's kept on him. Yeah. But in order to keep his dad out of the fire that's below him, he's got to stand in a fire that's behind him.
Yeah, I think he walks towards the fire to keep up, but obviously he eventually dies.
Yeah, he eventually just drops.
And I think it actually says in the book, doesn't it, that his dad has to watch his son kill himself to keep him alive, which obviously is devastating.
Ends up in his death
and then he also then dies.
Which, to be fair, as reasons to ride off to war go, that's a pretty good one.
Because up to that point, Ned, I keep on calling him Ned, just didn't want to get involved. Nope. He was just
as much of a friend as he was to.
And he was the youngest, wasn't he? He was, other than Lyanna, he was the youngest.
Benjen's younger than him.
I thought Benjen was older because Benjen had already joined the Night's Watch at that point, hadn't he?
No, Benjen's younger than Ned.
I thought Benjen was older.
No, I don't think so.
Well, maybe.
I don't think so. Yeah, so as far as... I mean, that in itself, you could see Arthur Dayne. You want to see Arthur Dayne fighting.
That would be cool,
who we've already seen fighting, and it was awesome.
I also kind of want to
see young Barristan Selmy fighting.
A lot of people seem to be... that hadn't read the books and that were aware. A lot of people were confused as to why Lyanna chose... why she chose... what's his name? Rhaegar. I was going to say, I don't know. Why did she chose Rhaegar over Robert? But wasn't it because he had a daughter?
Who?
Robert. Didn't he have like a daughter in Riverrun or something?
Not sure.
Something like that.
I just assumed it was because she loved Rhaegar.
Yeah, I just feel like that would be a good story to explain.
I think if they're going to do Robert's Rebellion, they should do it. And I think it might be like 1 or 2 seasons because they should do like a prologue and then the actual war. But it should end with Robert killing Rhaegar. That should be like the last episode. It should build up to Robert against Rhaegar. Like have them as the 2 sort of main characters, Robert, Rhaegar, and then the final episode of the final season is Robert them fighting the Trident.
So would you? Because I guess you wouldn't really need to see the whole Lyanna and Ned thing.
That's what because it's been done, and like that would be a way to go. Okay, go back and watch those episodes from Game of Thrones to know else what happened. But
also because if you're going to watch them chronologically, if you're going to watch Robert's Rebellion first, you shouldn't know about that until you see Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
So
it makes the weight behind it a lot more because it's kind of like, well, why does
all the character? It should make it appear to us watching it that
Robert's fighting for the woman that he loves. That loves him
and that
well.
Rhaegar kidnapped Lyanna, raped her and killed her. That should be how it is. They shouldn't try to do any underplots.
No, the story wasn't that he raped her and killed her. It was that he kidnapped her and raped her.
I thought it was that he killed her as well.
Well, that came out after she died, but it wasn't like.
Well, yeah, that's
during the war.
During the war, but then you know what I mean. That he's that should be what the.
So I was kind of hoping that we would segue into season 8, so I can talk about season 8.
Yeah.
I think with these series, they'll learn a lot from what happened with Game of Thrones.
what not to do.
What not to do. Because as much as I like David... And I don't blame David Benioff, who's one of the writers, because he wrote Troy, which is a very well-written film. I don't care what any of you movie noobs say. Troy's a well-written movie. So the fact that he can write a film like that he can do that. The only thing is, obviously the thing that everyone talks about is that there was a massive, and it was clearly obvious when the series left the books, and it was at the end of season 5, obviously.
Yeah.
And it was just, Jon Snow went from giving these big rousing speeches to being, "She's my queen," and that was all he said.
Yeah.
And
I think, and we've talked about this because.
Well, originally, for the people watching, originally you and Mum tried to defend the season 8 from me.
The reason why I'll explain why I tried to defend it.
You tried to save it from me.
The reason why I tried to defend it was because I knew that the story in itself was probably what George R. Martin had planned. And so I was kind of like, well, we don't know. Now, obviously, I'm like, well, yeah, it wasn't that good. And even then I said there was holes, and you could tell they just tried to rush it. There should have been
very rushed.
There should have been another season, if not 2.
The thing that got me was, right, in that final season, it seemed to me like they couldn't decide who the big bad guy was.
Yeah.
It was like you've spent 5 seasons going, our main bad guys are the Night King and Cersei. They literally went, Cersei is the Mad Queen now, and you're like, you've got your Mad Queen. But then they went, okay, no, Cersei isn't actually the Mad Queen.
Yeah.
Daenerys is the Mad Queen. And you're kind of like, well, you're just getting rid of 7 seasons worth of build-up to make Daenerys, when you've got a Mad Queen there. I
think what it lacked was explanation as to why Daenerys lost her mind. Because if that is George R. Martin's plan for Daenerys, it's obviously going to be explained a lot more. Mm-hmm. It's going to go back and it's going to say why she's doing it, if that even is the plan.
Yeah.
Which I'd be surprised if it wasn't, because they wouldn't have done it if it wasn't. But
my worry now is that George Martin's got a Zack Snyder thing where he's seen the reaction.
He's got to sit.
So he's going to go, okay, so that wasn't actually what I had planned. I just told them to do their own thing, and I've rewritten the last book, which means it'll not come out for another 20 years.
Well, I don't think he would do that, because I feel like he would release it in the way that it would be released would be better than this season.
I would think so.
It can't be worse, kind of, when you think about it. I think if he came out and be like, because I try to think of Daenerys in her whole life, like, the reason why she lost her mind was because she lost everyone she trusted. She, at that point she believed Jon Snow had betrayed her, which he kind of did. It's like, she also was in love with Jon Snow, so that...
It was just, to me, she started off with a character that stayed the same character from season 1 to 7, and then it was at the end of season 7 that she started going, okay, well, now I might be a bit crazy, and it's like,
I know.
Why then? Why wouldn't you put that in from the earliest? Yeah. I know that people might say, well, she let Drogo kill Viserys when he melted his head with the gold. I was like, yeah, that's fair enough, but he deserved that. He was a swear word to her.
I feel like, right, what they did in the last season, which you could tell they were doing it too late, was when Tyrion said she was killing all these people and we were praising her for it. If they had done that earlier, it would have been better, because it would have, like, Tyrion convincing her not to go burn the cities down. If they had made a bigger deal on that, that recklessness and that actually she was kind of, in a way, like her dad, from Tyrion's point of view, it would have been better.
The thing is, as well, I would say the Game of Thrones legacy was tainted, not by season 8, but by season 7 and 8. Because if you remember season 6, when that happened, because season 6 was when Daenerys was going to King's Landing. You saw her with the boats going to King's Landing, and everyone had these great elaborate stories and theories that was going to happen. And I remember reading one, and
I remember we had them.
It was so good, some of the ideas that people had, and I was like, there's no way they can muck this up, and they did muck it up. And it was like, the way it ends is with Bran on the throne, and Tyrion goes, who has a better story than Bran the Rogan? The guy who spent the entirety of the 8 seasons sitting down not doing anything. So what do you mean, who has a better story? Literally Podrick? I would rather Podrick had the throne than him.
Podrick had a great story.
Had a bloody mint story.
I'm just glad that Podrick was a knight at the end of it, to be fair. That was one of the best things. The fact he was a knight, I was like, good on you, Podrick.
The thing is, I don't want people to misunderstand, is that there were good moments as well in season 8
definitely. Arya killing the Night King, I thought was quite.
It was nice that Arya killed him, but
I would have
preferred
Jon Snow.
It shouldn't have been that easy.
It shouldn't have been, but I mean, I would have preferred Jon Snow to kill the Night King personally, but I thought it was a nice touch, Arya killing.
There was good moments. Jorah's death is still awesome. I love Jorah's death.
That was another like kind of embarrassing moment where it was like it was sad, but it was also very heroic, and you were like, he made up for the fact he betrayed her.
Yeah. Did you see the table? Have you ever seen the table read?
Yeah.
When he's sitting there, and the guy says he's taking more punishment than Hodor took
At the door, and
then all of I can't remember who the other one was, but they all took, and poor Emilia Clarke's sitting there crying
her eyes out,
and Jorah's get like what's he called, Ian Glenn or something, and he's sitting there sort of like, oh yeah, that's gonna be me.
Yeah.
That's me.
Yeah. Even Alfie Allen as Theon's death, I felt like was.
Yeah.
Although it was very quick. The point was that he didn't run away, because even though he'd saved Yara, he went to do that. Whereas other times when faced with the option of do I fight or do I run, he always ran.
Yeah.
But this point, he was like, no, I'm gonna make up for what I did to Bran. I'm gonna stand.
It's also the people always forget about that scene as well, is that when you look at it, when he's sort of standing alone there, he's also surrounded by a ton of dead bodies, and it's like he's the only one who survived. And
there's also, when you look as well, how some of the people got to Bran. He's literally there, like they're all circling Bran as well. So
there was, like I say, there was good moment. I'm not going to sit here and say all of season 8 was bad. There was good moments, but it feels like in season 7 and 8 they went, okay, we're going to get rid of all the good sort of characters and all that, and it's going to be just dragons. We're just going to have dragons, and it was like, well, no, because I never watched Game of Thrones for the dragons. I loved the bits where they sat and they spoke. That's why one of my favourite characters, and I always get grief for saying this, but one of my favourite characters was Tywin, because he could just sit and say something and everyone would be quiet.
I don't feel like that's a bad thing to say. I feel like any moment that Tywin just absolutely like ripped into Joffrey was awesome. When he told him like a king who has to remind everyone he's the king isn't
a king who has to say he is a king is no true king.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Humour yourself. But yeah, stuff like that.
That's not even my best Charles Dance.
Yeah, we know, Sean. I've heard them all. Okay. Any moment like that, isn't a whole interaction with Arya, I felt like was really interesting, because he obviously knew. He had to have. He knew she was from the north, and he knew she was hiding who she was. So he must have.
Harrenhal's closer to the north anyway, so.
He must have known that she was somewhat important.
Yeah.
If she was hiding who she was and she was from the north and she spoke well and read well, he must have known she was someone of importance to the north. And he still treated her nicely. And
it's weird. Some of my favourite characters are characters that people wouldn't. Like, if you were to say to someone, who's your favourite character, most people would say like Jon Snow or Arya or something like that. Yeah. My favourite characters were Tywin, Oberyn, and Olenna.
Oberyn was in too short. Oberyn should have had more.
That's the death out of all of the deaths in Game of Thrones. That was the one that I'm not over. It was my favourite. As soon as he came into it, I was like, I hate that so much. I hate so much that he's dead.
The fact, because as well, he's such a good, just his character. He's not one of the bad ones, like the reason he was in King's Landing was because of
to avenge his sister.
And so the fact that he died after like literally a season into it was like,
it's the comparison as well, because you go, okay, so this is one of our main Dornish characters, it's Oberyn Martell, and then in the next season you see Doran, who's an absolute wimp, and you're like,
I didn't like that.
And the Sand Snakes.
I did not like that.
Sand Snakes are rubbish.
Because Doran is on par with Tywin. He's like he has all these elaborate plans, and he's kind of like the puppet master, one of the main puppet masters of King's Landing.
One of the theories before the later seasons, one of the big theories that came out was saying that actually Doran was the one manipulating everything.
And they just did not explain any of that. He came in too late. That he was up there with Tywin, in my opinion.
The Sand Snakes were rubbish. Oberyn's daughters were rubbish. Obviously, they are.
Doran's son was rubbish.
Trystane,
aye.
Yeah, and it's the thing is, it's like obviously the reason everyone knows the reason that Tywin's my favourite. Yeah. Olenna was the same, because she just did not care about what she said, and she was like nice to characters that deserve to be nice to, like Brienne and Sansa.
She was just the boss of it all, wasn't she? Yeah. She was just like
when she first saw Brienne, she goes, "Oh my word, you are magnificent." And I was sitting there going, and you're seeing Brienne trying not to smile. It's like, I like that. Yeah, it's
because hadn't Cersei just criticised her or something, and Elena's just like, because Brienne had a whole thing with.
Yeah.
Renly didn't he? So it was nice. I feel like Marjorie had the potential to be the next Olenna, in that she was obviously very smart and she knew what she was doing. She was very manipulative, and I felt like one minute she was kind of manipulating the system. And the next minute she got blown up.
Yeah.
And to be fair, she did figure it out. That the reason. She was the only one that figured it out.
I didn't think season 6 was all that bad, and it was obviously
season 6 was.
It was the first season after the books, after the deviation from the books. The crypt blowing up was like, it was a big deal. I mean, I was kind of like, I wasn't expecting that at all, and it was cool.
It was literally within the first seconds of the episode as well, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was the first thing that happened.
No, that's an end episode. That
it was the end episode, but it was the first thing that happened in that episode.
No. It was like, I mean, it was the end of the episode, because the last thing you see is Cersei standing there with a cup.
No, it wasn't. It was. Was it? I'm not sure if it was the 9th or the 10th. I'm pretty sure it was the 9th. It was literally the first thing that happened in that episode, because I remember Mal, I'm not sure if you were there, we sat watching it, and the thing blew up, and we were like, already? That's like it was literally it was Marjorie, it was her brother, I'm not sure of his name, it was Cersei's uncle, it was Marjorie's dad, and it was like loads of characters.
Yeah, so the main ones were Marjorie Loras, the High Sparrow, Mace Tyrell, and Lancel, I guess.
Okay, it's not Lancel.
But it was just, the latter seasons ruined pretty much every character apart from a handful who didn't get ruined.
Arya, I don't think I got ruined.
She absolutely did.
Arya,
she absolutely did. Yeah, she was cool in the Battle of Winterfell, but then it comes to the crunch time when she's going to do something cool.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing's scared, and then she doesn't show an ounce of fear, and then for some reason she's scared, and then the rest of that episode is her running in the streets with all of the rest of the normal scared people, and you're like,
okay, yeah, that's fair enough on that. I meant like,
she killed the Night King. That's what I was thinking. I was sitting there going, she killed the guy who was supposed to be the really big scary bad guy, and now she's running away, and it's like,
yeah, that's fair enough. What I meant was the fact she didn't she left Westeros to go west of Westeros. That was kind of, I was glad that she didn't marry Gendry. I keep forgetting the name. It's been ages since I've seen it, but Gendry.
So the list of the characters that got absolutely ruined. Right, I'm going to start now.
Mm-hmm.
Jaime ruined, Cersei ruined, Daenerys, Jon, Arya, Brienne. Brienne sort of, and then she got fixed again toward the end.
Mm-hmm.
Sansa, the Mountain, the Hound, Tormund. Basically anyone who wasn't Ghost.
Ghost was such a good, but Ghost deserved better.
It was cool at the end when he had not here and he had the scars and everything. That was cool. If he's not cool enough being a giant white wolf, now he's got scars.
The thing I didn't like, right, I never to this point understood was why in the heck they brought Nymeria in. And I know, like, I defended it originally. I said it's meant to be, it's imagery, all about imagery. She's a reflection of Arya. That she's like kind of
the one wolf standing, and she'll come turn with a pack or whatever that quote is.
She has a pack, and she's like killing it and all this stuff. Like she's not meant to survive that south of the wall, and yet she has, and it's this great thing. And I was expecting Nymeria to come into it, and like
I was as well. Yeah.
I was thinking it'd be so good. Let's see Nymeria running in.
I'm sure. I was sitting there going, okay, so now she's got an army of wolves to fight the army of the
because
dead as well.
In my mind, I thought, okay, something's going to happen with Arya. She's going to be like, even though Arya is this like cool, she's going to be killing them all, but she's going to be surrounded, and it's going to be this big moment. Maybe at the end, when like it's like hopeless, and everyone's like, the Night King's in front of Bran, and
it would have been nice to have had a reunion between Ghost and Nymeria as well.
Yeah, for Nymeria to then run into it and like save Arya, and this cool moment, and like it would have. To me, that felt pointless. Like, why would you bring her in just to have the imagery of she is basically Arya? It just didn't really make sense.
The thing is, as well, right, the thing that bugs me is that the thing that still bugs me to this day is that you get all these people who go, oh, well, the Starks won. No, they didn't win. They didn't win at all. Because if Sansa has children, they're not going to be a Stark. Because, you know, if she gets married, she probably won't get married. If she doesn't get married, then she's not going to have kids, which means the Starks line will die out.
Yeah.
Jon isn't a Stark. So even if he had kids, the kids aren't going to do anything. He's a Targaryen. Mm-hmm. Arya's gone west of the wall, and she doesn't west of Westeros, and she doesn't seem like someone who's going to have kids. I don't know if she does. I don't know anything about that.
I'd be surprised if she did.
It's like, how did the Starks survive? Bran's a cripple who can't have kids. How did the Starks win?
The only thing I thought of is if Sansa married someone lower than her and made them take the Stark name, but even then, that's kind of like...
But even then, you're basically going, right, here's a man, now he's in charge, and it's like, I don't even think Sansa would have kids after what Ramsay did.
Everything that happened, yeah.
And it was kind of like, right now, this is a long episode, because it's Game of Thrones rant. So it was an annoying thing to me, because the way I thought they were going to do it, I thought they were going to do either Sansa or Arya marrying Gendry, making a Baratheon Stark child. I thought Jon Snow and Daenerys were going to get married, so the Targaryens and the Starks would live on. I thought Jaime and Brienne would get together so the Lannisters survive. So although it seemed like all these great houses were getting wiped off the map, there was still most of them left, and it was like, and then Sam, obviously one of the families that got wiped off with the Tarleys, and it was like, so the
Tarley name got carried on because he had...
So the Tarleys carried on, and I was like, so although it seems like all these families are getting wiped away, they're still there, but then it just went on, they've all actually been wiped away. They have all died. And it's just like...
It's just...
It baffled us.
I did try to defend it originally because I had hope that George R. R. Martin...
Yeah.
Because I just thought, well, obviously they wouldn't have done any of it if George R. R. Martin hadn't come up with it. But it was so rushed. They should have done at least another season, if not 2 seasons.
Yeah, and it was in 6 episodes as well.
6 episodes. It could have easily... I think is that Dave and Dan or something their names were? That wrote it.
There's D.B. Wise and David Benioff.
Yeah, because they were going to be doing a Star Wars thing, and now everyone was like, oh, well, just rushed it because they want to go do this Star Wars thing. But, I mean, did you hear about one of the original plans for Arya and Jon Snow? So apparently one of George R. R. Martin's original plans was for Arya to fall in love with Jon, and for Tyrion to fall in love with Arya, and to be this love triangle between the 3 of them. Apparently, because obviously Jon's not technically a Stark, or although she didn't know that was meant. Apparently, that was meant to be an original thing.
Well, I suppose he's half Stark, isn't he? Half Stark.
Yeah, well, there wouldn't be. They'd be kind of half cousins. They'd be cousins, wouldn't they?
Yeah, I suppose isn't as bad as his sister.
And then Tyrion was meant to be in love with Arya, and there was meant to be this love triangle going on between the 3.
Tyrion should have been a Targaryen. Oh, why didn't they make Tyrion a Targaryen and have Tyrion ride a dragon, Jon ride a dragon, and Daenerys ride a dragon?
I know.
Instead of putting Tyrion in the crypt with all the people who can't fight, have him ride a bloody dragon.
Especially after, what was it, season 5?
When he goes in and he talks to them.
Where he goes in, yeah.
Ah!
Because I know everyone's like, oh, well, it's just because he was talking to them, but it's like the whole point is that the reason the Targaryens had such a good relationship with the dragons was because they spoke to them and treated them as though they were just people.
And that's what when you watch that scene as well, they look like they're about to attack him until he starts talking, and it's like, that's literally all you need to go. Okay, so he's actually attacking.
He takes one of like the chains off them. I don't know which one it was. It didn't really make it seem which one it was. And then the other one, he thinks the other one's going to attack him now, but in reality, it turns its head and lets him take it off him. And this whole thing of him saying when he was a child that he said he wanted a dragon. It made it seem like so. The fact he even wanted a dragon, I thought, oh well, that's obviously.
Right, we're gonna wrap this up because we've been talking for an hour.
We could talk about this for more than just 1 hour.
The worst character that got ruined was Jaime. There, I said it. Because the entire season it's going, okay, so he's going to actually redeem himself for being a bit of a dick, and it's like
he's going to kill. He's
going to be the one to kill Cersei. You know, all this horrible stuff that's happening around them, and he will be the one to kill Cersei because although he killed Aerys, which was arguably not really justified, although it probably was justified.
Well, I mean, it was.
This one is as justified as Aerys because she's killed hundreds of people, thousands probably. Actually, she's probably killed thousands, and it's like, wrapping it up. Who's your favourite character?
My favourite character. Probably Brienne. To be fair, it's weird, but I felt after that whole Podrick thing she had, it was very like I was rooting for her.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted her to, become a knight and to have this big.
That was a nice scene when Jamie knighted her.
Yeah, it was a nice scene.
So I nearly cried
And
because
as well though, like when, even before that though, like when she's explaining why like she wasn't a lady because of what happened to her and she was like a girl and stuff. Like I always felt bad for her and like no one was rooting for her. It was nice. She was a nice character.
Yeah. Right, so that's the end of this episode of All Things Nerdy. It's going to be a long one. And to really end it in sort of a way that you can all sort of enjoy and take it away, I will do my Charles Dance impression. You're not on trial for being a dwarf. Take that home with you. Thanks for watching.
I need to know.